The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the center of the room, her hands behind her back. Around her, hundreds of alien faces stared down from their high seats. Some had multiple eyes, others had scales, or fur, but they all looked at her with the same expression: judgment. The Xanthari High Speaker raised one of his forearms. His voice echoed through the hall. "The vote is complete. The council has decided." His words came slow and careful. "Humanity is guilty of excessive violence. You have broken our most sacred law. All life must be protected, even our enemies." Sarah did not move. She had expected this. The humans had fought the void wraiths for 3 years. They had used weapons that could destroy the alien parasites completely. The council called this wrong. They said humans should have found another way. "The void wraiths were killing entire planets," Sarah said quietly. "They turned people into empty shells. They made children into mindless drones." The ethereal representative floated forward. Her body was made of pure light, and her voice sounded like music. "Violence is never the answer, human. We have existed for millions of years without destroying our enemies. There is always another path." "What path?" Sarah asked. "The wraiths cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped with words. They eat minds for food." The Corvan war chief slammed his massive fist on his seat. His reptilian face showed anger. "You humans think you know everything about war, but you know nothing about honor. A true warrior finds ways to win without destroying his enemy's soul." Sarah looked around the hall. Every species was here. The wise Xanthari who lived for 1,000 years. The peaceful ethereals who had never fought a war. The proud Corians who valued honor above victory. The gentle aquatics who spent their lives healing others. All of them had voted against humanity. "We did what we had to do," Sarah said. "The wraiths would have spread across the galaxy. They would have consumed everything." "That is not your choice to make," the High Speaker said. "The Council decides what threats are real. The Council decides how to respond. You humans acted alone. You ignored our commands. You used weapons we told you not to build." Sarah felt tired. She had been fighting this battle for months, explaining, arguing, showing evidence. Nothing worked. The other species could not understand. They had never faced something like the void wraiths before. The High Speaker continued. "Humanity is expelled from the Galactic Federation. All human colonies will be marked as quarantine zones. No trade will be allowed. No communication will be permitted. You have 1 standard year to remove all humans from Federation space." The hall erupted in noise. Representatives from different worlds talked to each other. Some sounded pleased, others seemed worried. The ethereal representative looked sad, but she did not speak against the decision. Sarah waited for the noise to die down. Then she spoke one more time. "Before we leave, I want you to understand something. The galaxy is more dangerous than you know. We humans have been fighting threats you never see. We patrol borders you never think about. We deal with problems you never hear about." The Corvan war chief laughed. It was a harsh barking sound. "More human lies. You want us to think you are heroes, but you are just killers who cannot control themselves." "We are leaving," Sarah said simply. "We will be gone within the year as you asked, but I want you to remember this day. When the darkness comes, remember that you chose to face it alone." The High Speaker waved his hand. "The human threatens us even now. Guards escort the ambassador out." 2 Xanthari guards moved toward Sarah, but she was already walking away. Her footsteps echoed in the quiet hall. At the door, she turned back one last time. "We never wanted to be your enemies," she said. "We wanted to be your friends, but you have made your choice. We will respect it." Then she was gone. In the weeks that followed, something strange happened. The humans did exactly what they said they would do. They left. No arguments, no protests, no threats of revenge. Human embassies closed down quietly. Human traders finished their current deals and then stopped coming. Human military ships pulled back from border patrols they had been running for decades. Human research stations went dark. The other species had expected fights. They had prepared for human anger. But there was none. The humans packed up their things and walked away. It was almost polite. The Xanthari were puzzled. In their long history, no species had ever accepted expulsion so calmly. Usually there were years of arguments and threats. The ethereals were confused. They had expected to feel the humans' anger and hate. But they felt nothing. The humans seemed to have no strong emotions about leaving. The Corvins were suspicious. They kept waiting for a human attack. Some kind of revenge. But the human ships just jumped away into space and never came back. Some council members began to feel guilty. The humans had seemed so sad when they left. Maybe the punishment had been too harsh. But the High Speaker reminded them of their duty. "We made the right choice," he told the council. "The humans were becoming too dangerous. They thought they could solve every problem with weapons. Now they will learn to find peaceful solutions." The aquatic representative raised a concern. The humans were patrolling the void territories. "Who will watch for Wraith activity now?" "We will," the High Speaker said. "The Council fleet can handle any threats. We do not need human violence to protect us." 6 months later, the last human outpost went quiet. It was a small research station near the galactic rim. The humans there sent one final message to the Yao Council. "Research Station Alpha 7 is now closing. All data has been destroyed as per quarantine protocols. We wish the Council well in their future endeavors." And then nothing. The galaxy felt different somehow. Quieter. Like something important had been turned off. The Xanthari noticed it first. Their long-range sensors picked up strange signals from the outer rim. Movement in areas that had been quiet for years. But when they investigated, they found nothing dangerous. Just empty space. The ethereals felt it too. A disturbance in what they called the cosmic harmony. Something was out of balance, but they could not identify what it was. Even the Corvins, who prided themselves on their warrior instincts, felt uneasy. Their scouts reported odd things. Ships moving at the edge of their territory. Energy readings that made no sense. But nothing they could prove was a threat. The council met to discuss these reports. The High Speaker listened to all the concerns. Then he made his decision. "These are just side effects of the human departure," he said. "They had many secret projects running, hidden bases and research stations. As these shut down, they create disturbances. Nothing more." Most of the council accepted this explanation, but some members were not so sure. They remembered Sarah Chen's last words. "When the darkness comes, remember that you chose to face it alone." What darkness had she meant? And why did the galaxy suddenly feel so much colder? The first attack came without warning. The Xanthari colony on Kepler 442b had been peaceful for over 200 years. It was a farming world, growing food for 3 nearby systems. The colonists were scholars and farmers, people who had never seen war. They never saw the void wraiths coming either. The attack ships arrived at night, dark and silent. They looked like giant insects made of black metal. No one on Kepler 442b had weapons strong enough to fight them. The colony sent out a distress call, but it was too late. By morning, 8 million Xanthari were gone. Not dead. Gone. Their bodies walked around like before, but their minds were empty. The void wraiths had taken everything that made them who they were. Now they were just shells, working to build new wraith ships. The news reached the council within hours. The High Speaker called an emergency meeting. Representatives arrived from across the galaxy, all talking at once. "This is impossible," said the ethereal delegate. "The void wraiths were contained. Our reports said they were trapped in the dead zone." The Corvin war chief studied the battle reports. His face was grim. "These are not the same wraiths we fought before. They are stronger, smarter. Their ships use new technology." "How many of them attacked the colony?" asked the aquatic representative. 17 ships, the High Speaker replied. "A small force, but they destroyed our entire defense fleet in minutes." The council chamber fell quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. If 17 Wraith ships could destroy a protected colony, what could a larger fleet do? "We need to send more ships to protect our worlds," said the Zenthari delegate. His voice shook with fear. "We will," the High Speaker promised. "The Council fleet will patrol all border systems. We will not let this happen again." But 3 weeks later it did happen again and again and again. The Void Wraiths attacked 7 more colonies in the next month. Each time they came with small fleets. Each time they won easily. The Council ships could not stop them. The problem was simple. The Council forces had never fought the Void Wraiths before. Only the humans had done that. And the humans had always won their battles by using weapons that destroyed Wraith minds completely. The Council refused to build such weapons. They still believed all life was sacred. Instead, they tried to capture Wraith ships. They tried to disable them without killing the creatures inside. This did not work. Void Wraiths could not be captured. They could not be disabled. They could only be destroyed completely, or they would keep fighting until they won. The Corvins learned this the hard way. Their honor code required them to give enemies a chance to surrender. They would disable Wraith engines and demand surrender. The Wraiths would pretend to give up. Then they would self-destruct their ships and take the Corvin vessels with them. After losing 6 ships this way, the Corvin war chief requested permission to use lethal force. "No," the High Speaker said. "We will not become like the humans. There must be another way." But there was no other way. And the attacks kept coming. The Ethereals tried using their mental powers to communicate with the Wraiths. They wanted to understand what the creatures wanted. Maybe they could negotiate. This was a mistake. The Void Wraiths were parasites that lived by consuming minds. When the Ethereals opened their thoughts to them, 12 of the galaxy's most powerful psychics were turned into empty shells in seconds. The Aquatics tried a different approach. They offered medical aid to captured Wraiths. They wanted to heal whatever was making the creatures so aggressive. This did not work either. The Void Wraiths had no interest in being healed. They attacked the medical ships and added 20,000 aquatic healers to their growing army of mind slaves. The Zenthari, being the wisest species, tried to study the problem. They sent research teams to examine Wraith technology. They wanted to find a weakness they could exploit without violence. The research teams never came back. Their ships were found drifting in space, full of empty-eyed Zenthari who now served the Wraith Collective. Within 6 months of the first attack, the Void Wraiths had consumed 47 worlds. Billions of beings had been turned into mindless servants. The Council's response had been a complete failure. But the attacks were not the only problem. Other threats were stirring too. On the outer rim, machine plagues that had been dormant for decades suddenly came alive. Self-replicating robots began consuming mining stations and turning them into factories for more robots. In the Chaos Nebula, reality storms that had been stable for centuries started expanding. Space itself was breaking down, creating holes where physics did not work properly. And from the deep space between galaxies, something vast and hungry was moving toward the Milky Way. Long-range sensors could barely detect it, but what they saw was terrifying. A cloud of darkness that ate stars. The Zenthari scientist who first noticed the patterns was named Kethvar. He had lived for 800 years and was considered one of the wisest beings in the galaxy. When he presented his findings to the Council, his hands were shaking. "These threats are not random," he told them. "They are all connected. Something has been keeping them under control, but that something is gone now." The High Speaker did not want to hear this. "What do you mean, under control? These are natural phenomena, random events." Kethvar showed them his data, charts and graphs that told a story spanning 2 centuries. "Look at the pattern. Every time one of these threats started to grow, it was suddenly stopped, not by Council forces. We have no record of fighting these battles." The room was silent as representatives studied the information. "The machine plague of 2387, Kethvar continued. "It infected 12 systems before suddenly going extinct. We thought it burned itself out. But there are energy signatures consistent with human plasma weapons at every infected world." He switched to another display. The reality storm in the Vega sector, 2401. It was expanding toward populated systems. Then it suddenly collapsed. Our ships never went near it, but human energy signatures are all over the area. More data appeared. The Devourers from the Magellanic Clouds, 2419. A fleet of planet killers heading for our galaxy. They stopped at the edge of our system and turned back. We celebrated our luck, but now I see human ship emissions along their entire flight path. The council chamber was completely quiet now. Everyone was beginning to understand. The humans have been fighting a secret war for 200 years, HFY said. They have been protecting us from threats we never knew existed, and now they are gone. The high speaker stood up slowly. His face looked old and tired. Are you saying the humans were right? That these threats require violent solutions? I am saying the humans have been doing the violence so we did not have to. HFY replied. They took the burden of necessary, killing so we could keep our hands clean, and we expelled them for it. The terrible truth was sinking in. The galaxy was not a safe place full of reasonable beings who could solve problems with words. It was a dangerous place full of monsters that wanted to destroy everything. The only reason the council species had been able to remain peaceful was because humans had been fighting the monsters for them. In secret, without asking for thanks or recognition. And now the monsters were free to hunt again. 1 year after humanity's expulsion, the Galactic Council was dying. The Void Wraiths had consumed 137 worlds. The machine plague had infected the Corvin homeworld's defense systems. Reality storms were tearing holes in space near the most important trade routes. And the dark thing from deep space was getting closer every day. In the council chambers, only half the seats were filled now. Many species had withdrawn to protect their own worlds. Others had simply gone silent, their star systems dark on the galactic map. The high speaker looked older than his 1,000 years. His forearms shook as he spoke. We must try to contact the humans again. We have tried, said the ethereal representative. Her light was dim now, flickering with exhaustion. Our messages reach their border, but they do not respond. The Corvin war chief had scars on his face from fighting the machine plague on his homeworld. My scouts report human ships at their borders. They are alive. They are watching us, but they will not talk. For months, desperate council members had tried to reach human space. Every attempt ended the same way. Human patrol ships would intercept them at the border. The conversation was always identical. This is human space, the patrol ships would say. You are not welcome here, please leave. We need to talk, the council ships would reply. The galaxy is in danger. We need your help. The Galactic Council made its position clear, the humans would respond. Humanity was judged unfit for civilized space. We have accepted this judgment. Please leave. No anger, no satisfaction, no emotion at all. Just cold acceptance of the Council's own words. Some species tried to sneak past the patrols. They found human space surrounded by barriers they could not understand. Energy fields that made their ships shut down. Spatial distortions that sent them back where they came from. The humans had sealed themselves away completely. The few messages that got through to human colonies carried the same response. You made your choice. We respect it. But the most frustrating thing was what human ships did when they encountered council vessels in neutral space. They helped them. When a Xanthari medical ship was attacked by void wraiths, a human destroyer appeared and drove the attackers off. Then it left without saying a word. When an aquatic colony ship broke down near human space, human engineers fixed their engines and gave them supplies. They refused all payment and vanished back into their territory. When a Corvin patrol was surrounded by machine plague drones, human fighters swept in and destroyed the enemy fleet. The Corvin commander tried to thank them, but the human ships were already gone. It was like the humans could not stop themselves from helping, even after being rejected. But they would not rejoin the galactic community. The Xanthari scientist, HFY, had spent the year studying human activities before their expulsion. What he found was terrifying. They were running over 300 secret operations, he reported to the emergency council session. Early warning systems throughout the galaxy, monitoring stations in dead systems, patrol routes through unexplored space. Research facilities studying threats we never knew existed. He brought up a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots marked human installations that had gone dark. "Look at this pattern," he said. "Every dark zone in our space had human watchers. Every dangerous system had human monitors. They were our immune system, and we cut it out." The aquatic representative studied the map with her large eyes. "How many humans were involved in these operations?" "Millions," Kethvar replied. "Entire fleets we never knew about. Soldiers who spent their lives fighting in places we never went. Scientists who studied threats we refused to believe existed." The high speaker felt sick. "All this time we thought humans were too violent, but they were protecting us." "Not just protecting," Kethvar corrected, "sacrificing. They took on the burden of doing terrible things so we could remain pure. They became killers so we could stay peaceful." The room fell silent. The moral weight of their mistake was crushing. Then new reports came in that made everything worse. The Void Wraiths had found something. Deep in human space, long-range sensors detected massive Wraith fleets gathering. They were not attacking human worlds. They were studying the barriers around human territory. "They are learning from human technology," the sensor operator reported. "Wraith science ships are analyzing the energy fields. They want to know how humans built their defenses." The implications were horrible. If the Void Wraiths could copy human barrier technology, they would become unstoppable. They could protect their own worlds the same way humans protected theirs. "We have to warn them," the ethereal representative said. "The humans do not know about the Wraith research fleets, but when they tried to send warnings, the messages bounced off human barriers. The humans had cut themselves off so completely that even urgent warnings could not reach them." The council was forced to watch helplessly as Void Wraith fleets surrounded human space. Everyone expected to see a great battle, the last free humans, fighting against overwhelming odds. Instead, something impossible happened. The Void Wraith fleets simply disappeared. One day they were there, hundreds of ships studying human defenses. The next day, empty space. No wreckage, no energy signatures, no trace of what had happened. The Corvins sent scouts to investigate. They found nothing. The Wraith ships were gone as if they had never existed. "How is this possible?" the war chief asked. "Void Wraiths cannot be destroyed without a trace. Even our best weapons leave wreckage." Kethvar studied the sensor data for weeks before he found the answer. Hidden in the background radiation was a signature he recognized from old human weapons tests. They did not destroy the Wraith ships, he realized. They erased them, completely, from existence itself. This news sent shockwaves through the remaining council members. Such technology was beyond anything they had imagined. Weapons that could remove things from reality. "The humans have been hiding their true capabilities," the high speaker whispered. "They are not just more violent than us. They are more advanced. By centuries." The question everyone was thinking but afraid to ask was simple. If humans could erase entire fleets from existence, what else could they do? The answer came from the deep space monitoring stations. The dark thing approaching from between galaxies had suddenly changed course. Instead of heading toward populated council space, it was moving toward the sealed human territories. Long-range sensors watched in amazement as the creature approached human barriers. It was vast, bigger than most star systems, made of dark matter that ate light and energy. The sensors could barely track it. When it touched human space, there was a flash of light brighter than a supernova. Then nothing. The creature was gone. Not destroyed. Gone. As if it had never existed. The humans had erased a galaxy killer from reality as easily as swatting a fly. "What have we done?" the high speaker asked quietly. "What kind of beings did we exile?" The answer was becoming clear. Humans were not the primitive, violent species the council had believed them to be. They were ancient guardians who had been protecting younger races for longer than anyone realized. And they had been doing it so quietly, so secretly, that their wards never knew they existed. The Zenthari had a word for this kind of guardian. Kethamar. The ones who carry darkness so others can live in light. The humans had been carrying the galaxy's darkness for centuries, fighting monsters in the void, stopping reality killers before they could reach populated worlds, erasing threats that were too dangerous to be allowed to exist, and the Council had judged them for it. 3 years had passed since humanity's exile. The Galactic Council was a shadow of its former self. Of the original 47 member species, only 12 remained active. The rest had either been consumed by various threats or had withdrawn completely from galactic politics to protect their remaining worlds. The once great council chamber was almost empty. Dust covered most of the seats. The holographic displays that used to show thriving trade routes now displayed red zones of danger spreading across the galaxy like a disease. Kethvar, the old Zenthari scientist, had become obsessed with human history. He spent his days in the archives reading every document about humanity's first contact with the galaxy 500 years ago. What he found changed everything he thought he knew about the universe. They were not exploring, he told the remaining council members. They were fleeing. The High Speaker looked up from reports of yet another colony lost to the machine plague. What do you mean? Kethvar activated his presentation. Ancient documents filled the air around them. Human records from their first starships. Radio transmissions from Earth during their early space age. Listen to their early transmissions, he said. They are not excited about meeting new species. They are terrified. They talk about the things that follow and the darkness behind us. The recordings played, human voices from centuries ago, full of fear. Mars Colony 7 has gone silent, one transmission said. Same pattern as the outer stations. They were there, then nothing. No distress signals, no wreckage. Just empty buildings and that oily black residue. Another voice. Earth Command, this is Deep Space Monitor. We're detecting movement in the Oort cloud. Large objects, moving against the solar wind. Recommend immediate evacuation of outer settlements. And another. The evacuation ships from Europa report something following them. A shadow in space that eats light. It consumed the transport harmony without a trace. We cannot fight this thing. We can only run. The council members listened in growing horror as the picture became clear. Humanity had not left Earth to explore the galaxy. They had fled their home system because something was hunting them. They brought their war with them, Kethvar explained. These threats we are facing now, the void wraiths, the machine plague, the reality storms, they followed humanity from Earth. They have been hunting humans for 1,000 years. The ethereal representative flickered with shock. You mean all these attacks are connected? They are all hunting humanity? Not just humanity, Kethvar corrected. Humanity's allies. Us. The threats cannot reach human space directly anymore. Humans have become too powerful, so they attack the species humans care about instead. The terrible logic was simple. Humanity had spent centuries building defenses against cosmic predators. Their barriers and weapons had become so advanced that direct attack was impossible. But humans still cared about their former allies. The monsters could hurt humans by hurting the species they had once protected. We are being used as bait, the Corvan war chief realized. These attacks are meant to draw humans out of their fortress, to make them come save us. But the humans were not coming. They had learned from their expulsion. The galaxy had made it clear that it did not want human protection, so humanity had withdrawn completely, letting the Council face its enemies alone. The strategy was failing, though. With each attack, the threats grew stronger. They consumed more worlds, gained more resources, learned more about galactic defenses. Soon they would be powerful enough to challenge human barriers directly. The aquatic representative raised a disturbing question. If these things have been hunting humans for so long, why are humans not extinct? How did they become strong enough to fight back? Kethvar had found the answer in the deepest archives, records that humans had sealed away but not destroyed. They made a choice, he said quietly. 500 years ago, when they realized they could not outrun their enemies, humans decided to stop running. They chose to become something else, something capable of fighting cosmic horrors. He showed them the documents. Scientific papers from human researchers, philosophical debates from human leaders, the records of the day humanity chose to transform itself. They called it the Dark Enlightenment, Kethvar explained. They decided that to fight monsters, they would have to become monsters themselves. They rebuilt their entire civilization around war. Every human became a soldier. Every scientist became a weapons designer. Every artist became a strategist. The transformation had taken generations. Humans had modified their own biology to be faster, stronger, more resistant to the mind attacks that the cosmic predators used. They had developed technology that could manipulate reality itself. They had learned to think like their enemies. They became what they needed to become, Kethvar said. But they never forgot what they used to be. They kept protecting other species because they remembered being weak and afraid. The High Speaker felt sick. We judged them for being violent, but they became violent to protect us. Worse, Kethvar replied. We judged them for being exactly what we needed them to be. Then we threw them away for it. The irony was devastating. Humanity had sacrificed their innocence to become guardians of the galaxy. They had given up their peaceful nature to fight wars that other species could not even imagine. And their reward had been exile. New intelligence reports made the situation even more desperate. The threats were coordinating now. Void wraiths were sharing technology with the machine plague. Reality storms were being directed by some intelligence to cut off council escape routes. The cosmic predators were working together. They know humanity is isolated, the intelligence officer reported. They are preparing a final assault, not just on human space but on all remaining council worlds simultaneously. The plan was simple and brutal. Attack everything at once. Force humanity to choose between protecting themselves and protecting their former allies. If humans stayed in their fortress, the galaxy would die. If they came out to help, the coordinated assault would destroy them. How long do we have? The High Speaker asked. 6 months. Maybe less. The council chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The end of galactic civilization. Either humanity would die trying to save ungrateful allies, or the galaxy would burn while humanity watched from safety. The ethereal representative spoke first. We have to try to contact them again, to warn them of what is coming. They already know, Kethvar said. Humans have been monitoring galactic communications since they left. They know about the coordination. They know about the timeline. Then why are they not preparing? The war chief demanded. They are, Kethvar replied, but not to help us. They are preparing for something they call the Long War, a final battle against threats from outside this galaxy entirely. The humans had detected something even worse approaching from deep space. Predators that made the current threats look like insects. The things that had originally driven humanity from Earth were just scouts for something much larger. They are going to abandon our galaxy completely, Kethvar explained. They are preparing to retreat to another dimension where they can make a final stand. The council members stared at him in shock. You mean they will let us all die? The aquatic representative whispered. No, Kethvar said sadly. They mean to honor our decision. We told them we did not want their protection. We expelled them for being too violent. They are giving us exactly what we asked for. The humans were going to let the galaxy burn because that was what the galaxy had chosen. No malice, no revenge, just cold respect for the council's authority. The High Speaker stood up slowly. His ancient body felt every one of his 1,000 years. Then we must ask ourselves, he said quietly, what have we learned from our mistake? And is it too late to admit we were wrong? 5 years after humanity's expulsion, the galaxy was dying. The final coordinated assault had begun 3 months ago. Void wraiths attacked from the galactic core. Machine plagues swept in from the outer rim. Reality storms tore through the most populated sectors. And from the deep void between stars, things older and hungrier than nightmares came to feed. The Galactic Council held its last session in a bunker deep beneath the surface of Zenthari Prime. Only 7 members remained. The rest were dead, consumed or transformed into something unrecognizable. The High Speaker's forearms were gone, lost in a void wraith attack on his transport. He spoke through a mechanical voice box, because his throat had been damaged by machine. Plague nanites. The end has come, he said simply. Our last defense fleets were destroyed yesterday. The barriers around our core worlds will fall within days. Around the table sat the final representatives of galactic civilization. The ethereal delegate was barely visible now, her light dimmed to almost nothing. The Corvan war chief had lost, his left eye and most of his scales to reality storm exposure. The others looked equally broken. Kethavar, now the oldest living being in the galaxy at over 800 years, activated one final presentation. I have completed my research into the human archives, he announced. I know now what we truly lost when we expelled them. The hologram showed a timeline stretching back millennia. Points of light represented civilizations rising and falling across the galaxy. This is not the first cycle, Kethavar explained. Every 50,000 years, the cosmic predators sweep through this galaxy. They consume everything and move on. The cycle has repeated 17 times. He highlighted different periods in galactic history. Each time young species develop space travel, they form alliances, they build great civilizations, and each time, the predators return to harvest them. The pattern was clear: rise and fall, growth and consumption, an eternal cycle of creation and destruction. But this time was different, Kethavar continued, because this time, humanity was here. The timeline showed humanity's arrival in the galaxy. For the first time in cosmic history, a species had survived the harvest cycle. Not just survived, but grown strong enough to fight back. Humans broke the pattern, Kethavar said. They turned themselves into guardians. They held back the darkness for 5 centuries, giving us time to grow beyond what any previous civilization had achieved. The other council members stared at the data in wonder and horror. They had lived through the greatest age in galactic history, protected by guardians they had never known existed. How many species did they save? The ethereal representative whispered. All of us, Kethavar replied. Every species in this room exists because humanity fought the predators in secret. Without them, we would have been consumed centuries ago. The High Speaker felt the weight of their mistake crushing down on him. And we expelled them for it. We did worse than that, Kethavar said sadly. We condemned them as monsters for becoming exactly what we needed them to be. We judged them by the standards of a safe galaxy that only existed because they made it safe. A new alarm sounded. The bunker's sensors detected massive movement in space above them. The final assault on Zenthari Prime had begun. Through the bunker's thick walls, they could hear explosions. The planet's defense systems were being overwhelmed. They had perhaps an hour before the facility was breached. The High Speaker made a decision that should have been made years ago. Kethavar, he ordered, use the emergency broadcast system. Send a message to human space. The old scientist's hands shook as he activated the communications array. For the first time in 5 years, a council transmission reached the barriers around human territory. The response came immediately. A human voice, calm and professional. This is Patrol Station 7. State your message. The High Speaker leaned toward the microphone. His mechanical voice carried across the void. This is the Galactic Council. We wish to send a message to your leadership. We know you are listening. A pause. Then, proceed. The High Speaker took what might be his last breath as a free being. We were wrong, he said. We understand that now. You were never our enemies. You were our guardians. You sacrificed everything to protect us, and we judged you for it. Another pause. The explosions above were getting louder. Your message is acknowledged, the human voice replied. Is there anything else? The High Speaker looked around at his fellow council members, these broken survivors of a dying civilization, the last representatives of species that had thrived under human protection. We want you to know, he continued, that we finally understand what you were trying to tell us. Peace is not the absence of violence. It is the presence of those willing to commit violence on behalf of those who cannot. The bunker shook as something massive hit the planet's surface. We were able to remain pure, the High Speaker went on. because you were willing to become impure for us. We stayed peaceful because you chose to become warriors. We judged you by the standards of a protected world, never understanding that you were the ones doing the protecting. The human voice was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, it sounded different, sadder. Your apology is accepted, it said. We never wanted you to understand through suffering. We hoped you could remain innocent forever. Will you help us? The ethereal representative asked desperately. Can you save what remains? The pause was longer this time. Above them, reality was starting to break down. The air itself was becoming unstable. I am sorry, the human voice finally replied. It is too late for this galaxy. The predators have grown too strong, too numerous. Even we cannot stop what is coming now. The high speaker felt his hopes die. Then this is truly the end. For this galaxy? Yes, the human agreed, but not for the species within it. We have prepared sanctuaries in parallel dimensions, pocket universes where your people can rebuild safely. The offer stands for all council species. The bunker's lights flickered as something vast passed overhead. What about you? Kethvar asked. What will happen to humanity? The human voice grew quiet. We go to fight the long war. The things consuming this galaxy are just the vanguard of something much worse. We will make our stand in deep space, far from any world that could be harmed. The implication was clear. Humanity was going to fight a battle they could not win, against odds that were impossible to buy time for other species to escape. You would do this for us? The high speaker asked. After everything we did to you? You are still our responsibility, the human replied simply. We swore oaths long ago to protect younger species. Your council vote cannot change those oaths. The bunker's main door exploded inward. Through the smoke and fire, shapes that hurt to look at began pouring in. Void wraiths, machine-plagued drones, things that existed partially outside normal space. The high speaker spoke quickly into the microphone. If any of our people survive, what should we tell them about humanity? The human voice answered just before the transmission cut out. Tell them we kept our promise. Tell them we fought the darkness so they could live in the light. And tell them that the door remains always open for those who choose to walk through it. The transmission died as something that was not quite real and not quite unreal reached the communications chamber. But across the galaxy, in hidden bunkers and sealed shelters, the last survivors of dozens of species heard the message. They learned the truth about their guardians. They understood finally what humanity had sacrificed for them. And in dimensions beyond normal space, human ships began their final journey, moving toward a war that would determine whether life itself would survive in the universe. They went quietly as they had always done, without fanfare or demands for gratitude, just warriors doing their job one last time. The last transmission from human space contained only the words they had always lived by. We are the watchers in the void. We are the guardians of the light. We stand between the darkness and the dawn. The galaxy burned behind them. But in the pocket dimensions, in the safe spaces humanity had prepared, the survivors began to rebuild. They would remember. They would honor the sacrifice. They would tell their children about the species that loved them enough to become monsters so they could remain human. And someday, when they were strong enough, they would open that door humanity had left for them and follow their guardians into the dark. But that is a story for another day. For now it was enough that someone remembered. Someone understood. Someone finally knew the price of peace. The humans had walked away quietly when condemned. They fought even more quietly when forgotten, and, in the end, they died quietly, still protecting the species that had cast them out. Because that is what guardians do.